Last season, Morales beat James David to the crown just as the GT4 Club Sport Series closed its doors. Today starts a new chapter for the Monday Night 10 Tops with GT3 cars replacing the GT4s. Slightly faster, but with more gadgets and tools, it is likely to be just as fun for both drivers and fans. Let's see who adapts well to the new challenges as we get ready to watch round 1 of the PRL GT3 Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Pekin. With me in the booth is Adam Lindgren. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Barcelona plays host to the opening round today and will make qualifying an important factor. Let's head to our track guide to find out a little bit more about this European circuit. Welcome to Circuit de Barcelona. The home of the Spanish Grand Prix for nearly 30 years, it's easy to forget that this is a relatively recently built track in Europe. It's known for its long, sweeping corners and hosts the highest level of open-wheel and motorcycle racing. Placing an emphasis on a good aerodynamic setup with high downforce cars, it's often overlooked that it offers plenty of overtaking for lower-tier racing as well. In fact, most don't take into account that this adaptable track has 5 different layouts to choose from. These range from the nearly 3-mile-long Grand Prix version to the minuscule 1-mile club circuit. Because of the pit straight being the longest acceleration zone, Elf is the most likely spot for drivers to get a pass done. After that, your next hope might be into Lakaja, which, depending on which layout you use, could be a sharpened set of 2 turns or one long hairpin with an opening radius. In the early 2000s, a chicane was added close to the end of the lap, but the old Europe car corner can still be run. The Spanish fans have some gorgeous views from the many hills dotted along the track. And with the international fame this place has built over time, it's no wonder they're almost always full come race day. You see a little bit more about Catalunya, Barcelona here, but Adam, even under looks like slightly gloomy skies, I think there's a lot of cheery drivers ready to start the season.
Definitely, I think so. Yeah, the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya is a favored testing ground for all forms of racing, from chump cars to Formula One. Its combination of long, sweeping curves and sharp, tough turns, mixed with high curbs and big elevation changes, make it a great place to test one-lap pace. When it comes to racing, however, things get very complicated. Your best passing zones will be into Lakaja and out of the final corner down the front straight into Turn 1. The rest of the time, the strategy will be stick to the back of the car ahead and try to capitalize on any mistakes they make so you can try and pass them almost anywhere around here, as long as you catch your competition napping and get enough of an advantage. In the GT3 cars the drivers will be tackling tonight, you'll need to be careful of getting too deep into the braking zones, as the ABS can only help slow you so much. The drivers will also need to be careful around Turn 3 and the final turn, as they could find the relative lack of downforce compared to other similarly paced cars on the service, and that might find them drifting wide into the gravel if they're not careful. With such a technical track, so many different makes of cars, and such a large grid, I'm looking forward to an interesting race tonight, Joe.
Me as well, especially since this will be a different car from what they were driving before. Different class of car, I should say. But as always, today's race is brought to you by SimMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring organizations, companies, manufacturers, teams, and drivers together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. They're also bridging virtual and real motorsports by providing a network between these two, involving sim racers, real drivers, teams, managers, engineers, and of course, motorsport fans alike. You can find out more about how you can get involved at SIMMSA.net. Adam?
The GT4 Club Sport Series is also brought to you by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit NinjaTrader.com to get started with a free risk trading simulator and start tracking your performance. That's NinjaTrader.com. Joe?
Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. check them out at thebuttkicker.com. Now, if you would like to advertise here on GSRC, we offer a wealth of options to help get your branding seen on a platform with over 1 million monthly impressions. If your organization is looking for a global audience to advertise with, look no further than GSRC by following the link in the description below so that you can learn more. Let's take a look at how last season's championship wound up as well. Oh, it looks like we'll just have a verbal calling of that. It was Morales over James David by about 12 points there. And then Julio Palacio in the end came close to getting into the fray, but unfortunately was just a little bit too far away to be involved in things. He was about 34 points back from the two of them. Daly and Tremblay rounded out your top 5 on that one for the Drivers' Championship. Adam, what about the race details for today? What are our drivers up against in terms of today's event with the new class?
Yeah, they're going to be running into a couple of different things, a couple of different oddities today with the different classes. We've got the 6 different cars that are available, but it looks like we only have about 4 here for this class, and it's going to be round 1 of 12 tonight, by the way, for the PRL GT3 series here at Barcelona-Catalunya. And they're going to be running a 40-minute race today, which is a little bit shorter than is normally anticipated. But that being said, with 40 minutes, they still have only 50% fuel, which means that they are going to have to make a pit stop tonight to make sure that they make it to the end of this race. And remember that as far as the disqualifications and the incident points are concerned, it's going to be 11 points before you get a drive-through, and I believe it's 17 points before you reach a disqualification tonight. So these drivers have to be very careful.
They've really cracked down on that, as well as a few things we'll hopefully be able to go over in a little bit. Before we get to some of the rules changes, let's take a look at how qualifying is going. Anthony Pisano up at the top over Michael Davies. Now, Davies was looking very strong in the warm-up session and is backing it up. He is actually only 8 1/1000ths off of our pole sitter currently. In fact, our top 5 are separated by just over a 1/10 of a second right now.
And the top 10 are under, wow, actually the top 12 are under a full second right now, so it's very, very close at the front of the field as we're watching Michael Davies currently go around the track in that second position, trying to catch up to Anthony Pisano up at the front of the field. We've got, like I said, 4 out of the 6 available cars to be taken, and they were not told to assign themselves vehicles before tonight, so the cars that they are driving tonight will be the cars that you see these drivers take for the rest of the season. So Pisano in the BMW and Michael Davies in the Audi.
It seems to be a relatively popular one up towards the front. Goodway as well, who you see taking the pole away from Pisano. And he is up the ante by a significant amount. It is 0.140 ahead of second place. Remember, we said there was only 1/10 between the top 5 before. That has now changed.
Yeah, Jean-Marc Tremblay crosses the line. Not very good. Oh, David Flanagan getting a little bit loose off of the final corner. He actually hits the inside wall, unfortunately. Spencer Semkovich coming across the line, trying to improve from his 25th position. Cannot do so on that lap.
Davies does improve and actually goes to the pole. Wow! Big gap between himself and the rest. 3.5 tenths between the 75 and the 74 car. Davies, another one running the Audi. So essentially in our top 5, we've got 4 Audis and a single Bimmer in the Z4. Then you've got a lot of Ferraris running your way down through much of the top 10 in the field currently. Still a lot of qualifying left to go. And it certainly seems like there is a lot up for grabs as we've seen crazy swings and changes in the qualifying order.
Tony Costello next across the line, and yeah, Joe, it definitely sure seems like there's a lot of track evolution going on right now as the times continue to fall away. Currently, the weather is at 96 degrees Fahrenheit, 36 degrees Celsius here on track, and that's going to keep things pretty toasty. Not the worst we've seen, but that wind is actually pretty interesting. It's 13 kilometers per hour out of the northeast, so keep that in mind when it comes to these drivers trying to turn into these corners with these GT3 machines.
What aero-dependent cars as well, so the drivers might have to keep their head on a swivel in terms of going through some of the high-speed corners where they need that downforce. As we watch Barry Cochran come around the last turn, looks like that lap did not count for him. Now, we talked about some of the things that are changing in this series. One of the things is they've changed how the penalties are dealt out. They're no longer going to be getting points penalties in the championship. It is all down to time penalties post-race, end of lines for the next race start, or pit lane starts, as well as complete disqualifications. We have seen that on rare occasions here now. It's taken some extreme circumstances. So it seems like they're getting a little bit strict on the drivers, and it's not in terms of championship. It is just down to the races themselves.
Jared Williams coming across the line with quite a few different cars that are coming across the line now. Not many people improving their times this time around, however. Diego Morales will be one to try and jump up there. Looks like Anthony Pisano jumps up to actually gets knocked down to third place as Lewis Goodway goes up to second with a 145.384. Still, though, 3.5 tenths back of Michael Davies.
Alazar goes a little bit faster, but stays in 29th. As I'm watching Foes and Flanagan, both of them a little bit down the order here. I don't think Flanagan's on a quick one because he looked like he was bottled up. Indeed, that looks to be an out lap for him. We talked about some of the difficulties in trying to overtake cars, hence why we are so focused on this qualifying, and there's still a fair bit of time left here in about 4 minutes. So maybe 3 laps if anybody is out there and running hot laps right now. But if they're just getting out, they've only got 2 laps left to go. This is Strykars coming down to the line. That one not quicker for him, unfortunately. What about David Menino in the number 3 car, sitting in 14th? I think he might be on a slow lap here.
Too slow. It's just a little bit, some 2 tenths slower than his fastest lap. So he's still out there trying to get things going. But it looks like we did kind of have a sweet spot there. It looks like David Stevenson in the only. Is it the only McLaren out there? No, Justin Janot has a McLaren out there as well. So there's only 2 McLarens running tonight out of the 6 different vehicles that you can have potentially choosing into the season. One of the interesting things, Joe, and this might surprise a few of our GT3 normal runners in other series, I don't see a Mercedes in the field tonight.
Wow, they must have really nerfed it because that was the car to have in GT3 in a lot of series. It was wildly popular. As we watch Arnaud Janot come across the line, continuing to try and find something in it. Tony Costello from the West Club. Ooh, he does go quicker, 46.2, and that's actually going to jump him up a few places into 12th.
Yeah, and just talking about the Mercedes one more time, part of me thinks that people didn't choose it because of this week's particular track. And I think some of the drivers, as long as it's not too nerfed, I'll have to check in with some of the drivers about that. But some of the drivers might actually regret that when we get to some of our more power-heavy tracks.
Kyle Strykars come through the final chicane. Boy, those curbs are huge, especially these little GT3 cars as they plunge across those apexes. Strykars down to the line, and looks like that one was not quicker for him as well. Got Menino back on screen around New Holland. Still in 15th position. His first lap was his quickest at a 46.5. 47.2 is not going to do it.
And unfortunately, Anthony Pisano, right in behind these guys, got held up a little bit as he's crossing the line just ahead of Justin Junot, who we're taking a look at right now, and in the other McLaren. But yeah, our third place driver, Anthony, actually got held up a little bit. He was on for a really good lap, possibly to beat Lewis Goodway there, but just got held up on the final corner. And that's just the nature of open qualifying when it comes to iRacing.
Jean-Marc Tremblay running in his Ferrari. Stays in 8th place. His 45 not able to be bested that time through. We're really running out of time now. Drivers starting their final lap. Davies, though, I think... No, he did not extend his gap.
Diego Morales up to second place. Beats Lewis Goodway by a tenth and a bit. He's now up to second place, only about a quarter of a second off of Michael Davies' top time. There's still time to be found on the track right now.
If we have any other front runners, Sean Macbeth going to give up on 7th as he comes into the pit lane. What about Jorge Flores in the 929? Another Audi driver, 45.9. Can he go any faster than that? Across the timing line. No, that looks like that was either an outlap or he had a mistake somewhere. Trying to see if we have any others up towards the top. It seems like many of them have abandoned their laps and they are done for the day.
Quite a few drivers still out there circulating who are going to be trying to put in their final laps here, as we see Lawson Christie coming across the line. Does improve by a little bit up to 34th position. Just as you know, though, just not having the best qualifying on this very difficult track in that Macca. He's going to be coming across the line now to try and set a better time than 1:54.2.
Lewis Goodway is going to be one of our front drivers, top drivers, coming to the line here soon. I don't think he'll be able to start another lap. If he does, it'll be very, very tight. He's currently sitting in third with 3.5 tenths to make up to our pole sitter. That's quite a gap. Let's see if he's got anything in it, and it is going to run out. He's not going to be able to start a new one. Checkered flag flies. He does not improve. Palacio doesn't either, who is going to be starting 5th behind him. Barrett with slight improvement. LeBlanc, no time lap that time through.
Diego Morales unfortunately cannot improve his time to jump up any further or jump Michael Davies from pole, so he's going to be settled into second. Lewis Goodway settled into third.
This is David Flanagan down into the line, looking to improve at 46.6. He does. So from 20th, looks like he went up to 15th on that one. Jorge Flores spins out in the final chicane, so he's not going to find time. What about Sean Foes? All the way down in 36, second to last. Nope, that is it for him, as he will stay put.
Yeah, Justin Junot got sent around on his final lap, unfortunately, so he's not going to improve his time either. Kyle Strykars is going to be one of our final drivers to come across the line, trying to improve off of a 146.747, and unfortunately cannot do so. Comes across with a 147 flat.
Lawson Christie was his quickest last time through and improves it one more time. That'll get him up to 31st. Slight gain for him in the dying stages of this qualifying. Ron Fusi, who is down in 22nd, will be followed by Pete Mabroten. He'll be in 11th currently, but he certainly will probably want to try and crack that top 10, but he won't, because he's going to dive into pit lane. Fusi, on the other hand, is going to try and complete the last flying run, but he had an off track, and that one was a no-go. Palacio and Goodway have already finished their timed laps. So as they come across the line, they are not able to do anything there since they are already done. We're going to go through our starting order here today of a very big field for what is a popular car series here on iRacing. Michael Davies is the quickest of everybody in the qualifying session, with Diego Morales, the current reigning champion for Monday nights, if not necessarily this series, will start from second. Lewis Goodway will be starting P3, followed by Anthony Pisano in 4th position. Julio Palacio to the inside of row 3 starts 5th, and Raymond Day in P6. Sean Macbeth, 7th for him, will be followed by Tony Costello to his outside in P8. Jean-Marc Tremblay starts 9th, and Jorge Flores in 10th.
Pete Mabroden's going to start off 11th place, with Dan Ravito starting off alongside him. Then we have Piotr Margula starting off in 13th, with Angelo Velos starting off in the 14th position. David Flanagan's going to start off row 8 with Arnaud Genis starting off in 16th next to him. Kenny Rodriguez in 17th, with David Menino starting off in 18th. Your top 20 are rounded out by J.R. Williams and Sammy Bridges.
Strykars put it in 21st. We followed Ron Fusi across the line, where he stayed 22nd. Christopher Rhines was good enough for 23rd. Aaron Law behind him in the 24th position. Then you've got Barry Cochran in P25 and Brian Hotham in P26. Brett Barrett will be the next one in line in 27th. Spencer Simkovich starts 28th, and Levi Goffany 29th. James LeBond rounds out our top 30.
Lawson Christie starts off 31st, with Ariel Salazar in 32nd, David Stevenson 33rd, and Dylan Humphrey 34th. Row 18 is going to be Gary Schilling and Sean Foes, and then the final row, Justin Janot, and then Danny Duchesne did not set a time.
Slightly shorter races than last season here. 40 minutes that they are going to be running now in the GT3s, as opposed to the 45 they ran with the GT4s, but we still expect a single pit stop for fuel, as they do not have big enough tanks to try and get to the end. So pit strategy will play a part in tonight's race. Temperatures have gone down just a little bit, 92 degrees Fahrenheit, 33 Celsius currently. And the drivers, I'm sure, will appreciate the slightly more grip that it will give them. But then you have to wonder as well, too, starting out on these cold tires, how long is it going to take to get them up the desired temperature? And will that catch anybody out?
One of the things that scares me a little bit is I saw a lot of people struggling with turn 3, even on warm tires in the practice sessions on a full fuel load. So expect the drivers who are on the inside in turn 3 to be very, very caught out here and to lose a little bit of time. I think you're going to want to be on the outside as you go down into turns 1 and 2 to try and make sure that you maintain that faster line on the exit of turn 2 up through the turn 3 complex.
Third turn, Renault is incredibly long, and we see, of course, Formula One cars take that pretty much flat out, but a very different thing here in these GT machines. As they come out of Banque Sabadell, up towards Europe car, the sharper version of Europe car, so that they can take the chicane that they take in Formula One instead of the old classic track. Everybody's going to have to really get together quick because already the pace car is out of there and heading into pit lane. Looks like Davies has control of the field. They're trying to get stacked up behind him. This could cause a little bit of confusion back there. Out of the final turn, and green flag is out. Michael Davies is off down the front stretch as Morales is already under threat. Lewis Goodway to his inside. Pisano gives watch but decides not to try and get involved in it. Going to be a drag race between second and third. Up into Elf. Under braking. Goodway. Oh, and our leader outbrakes himself. Davies is off wide. We're 3 wide for the lead, but Goodway's going to come out with it.
Goodway currently leading into turn 3 as they go around the long, sweeping turn 3, and that inside line actually seeming to work out pretty well for Diego Morales, but Michael Davies trying to come back on the outside is able to get a foot ahead as they go to the deep braking zone for turn 4. Looks like Diego trying to hold off a little bit side-by-side contact between Diego and Michael Davies, with Michael Davies coming out ahead, and no, he's around!
Everybody scatters to try and avoid him. Looks like the only one to actually make contact is Raymond Day, but he falls way down the order. A horrible, horrible start for Morales as Goodway, Davies, Pisano all start to pull away. That's your top 3. Palacio is our first battle. He's being, or at least he's battling with Pisano for third place.
Junot got caught up in that as well, so he's at the back of the field. So that's definitely going to be one that the officials look at, considering we are in the orange zone at the beginning of this race for a full lap. So these drivers are going to have to keep it very careful now to make sure not to make contact. That's a very testy moment there between Giulio Palacio and Anthony Pisano right there for third and fourth.
Look, it's a big field, so I actually think we can call that a win, considering that could have been so much worse spinning in front of the entire oncoming bit of traffic. As we watch our leaders come through New Holland and onto the main straight. Goodway holding a lead of about 7/10 over Michael Davies. That could be critical if he can keep him at arm's length with how tough it is to pass. Pisano has now dropped Palacio, and there's a big wreck in the background. I think Raymond Day involved in that. Remember, I said he was one of the ones that made contact in that big incident coming through Repsol. I wonder if that damage made his car too hard to handle in these fast corners.
We'll see it here. He gets on that inside curb, but that just sets him up to be loose as he goes through the final corner. That ends up sending him straight into the inside tire barrier, unfortunately. Luckily, nobody else made contact with him.
Going once again, but with a very, very damaged car. They don't have a fast repair in this series, so he is just going to have to deal with it. Looking at our leaders, Palacio, who was trying to threaten for third, is now just trying to hold on to fourth because it's Sean Macbeth in the 252, trying to see if he can do something with him. It is Audi versus Audi.
And this actually scares me a little bit. These Audis are known for being extremely twitchy on the rear end, but look at this. Sean Macbeth looking at the inside as they go over the crest. That's always a dangerous proposition. He does back out of it, so it's actually going to make him lose out time here on this nice back straight, which leads into a nice heavy braking zone, which we will see used for quite a few passes tonight.
They can get the run that they need. Not going to be the case that time for Sean Macbeth. So he has to set himself up once more behind Palacio, who gets at least a little bit of breathing space. A lot of the race left to go. We're only 4 minutes into this thing, just completing lap 2.
Yeah, it's very tight racing up there at the front, and actually the front 5 are pretty well tied together. Then we have a break back down to Peter Babroten in 6th position. That goes all the way back down to 12th position, where we have another break to Kyle Strikers in the 13th spot. So we have a couple of little breaks going on here that are splitting up the field. But look at this, Lewis Goodway up in the front of the field with the fastest lap, and Michael Davies is actually gaining on him on the front straightaway.
Interesting stuff there. He's got it at least to 8/10. He's keeping him honest, but he's not really been within striking range. Up at the front, really the only battle that continues is between Palacio and Macbeth. Let's jump a little bit farther back in the field, down to J.R. Williams in 14th. He's not too far back from Striker. There's a whole train of cars back behind him. Bridges in there, Rodriguez, Rines, Minino, as well as Morales. Diego on his recovery drive is up to 19th. Oh, and we've had an incident. Sorry, Pete Babroten is off in Seat. Did he have help?
No, this was
like he did not.
Yeah, he just outbroke himself a little bit of too much rear brake bias heading into the corner. Too much trail braking ends up getting him loose. He ends up hitting the outside barrier, as we saw in that replay there, and he is able to recover cleanly, but he's lost quite a few positions back down to 12.
I feel like we're starting to get a sense that that is going to be a bit of a talking point here today, keeping those mistakes out. The drivers that are losing positions so far, only those ones, Adam, that are making mistakes and letting others through.
Well, the two big talking points that are going to come out of this is that with such big field, qualifying is vital, especially on a track like this that doesn't allow many opportunities to pass. But like you said, the mistakes are the other thing. Because there aren't that many opportunities to pass, when you make a mistake, that opens up the door to the person behind you. And we'll see a lot of people trying to take advantage of those opportunities as best they can.
We come back to the battle we were watching before, with Pete in the 515 being chased by Strikars down the front stretch. I don't think Kyle's really got enough of a slipstream. And indeed, they're all going to stay right single file. J.R. Williams, the third in line in this group, and the BMW. We've also got Sammy Bridges and Kenny Rodriguez still holding on to the back of them. Bit of a side-by-side battle behind them as Morales is able to overtake Rines. That's going to give him 18th place through Elf and Renault.
Yeah, Morales actually has some really good pace, even with the right rear damage to that Audi. It's crabbing a little bit, so that's definitely going to be affecting his tire wear, and it's also going to be affecting his toe out of these corners. But he still has some decent pace and is trying to claw his way back up into the top 10.
You to follow this little pack. Morales seeing if he could maybe get things off on the right foot here. And up next for him, Minino, just about 4/10 ahead, who carries a lot more speed coming into SIMMSA, but it seems to bite him on the way out. Off track there behind them, and Christopher Rines is going to find that the gravel does not offer enough grip as he comes to a halt, running broadside across the track.
Fortunately, he points it backwards and gets it pretty secure there. But here we go on board with him. He's going to be coming through there. The car gets a little bit tight there in the BMW. He hits that gravel, tries to keep it straight, but keeps his foot in it when it hits the grass. And that ends up what sends him around.
Nobody really is in danger getting into him once he pulls it off track. So heading away from that, back live. Brett Barrett back in 22nd, has Hotham and Cochran close in front of him. This is solidly in the midfield here.
Yeah, one driver I do want to talk about a little bit is Aaron Law in the number 33 machine, currently in 23rd position. Aaron is really struggling for straight line speed. I think he took a little bit of front end damage. You can see it right there. And he's losing a ton of time and a ton of positions on this front straightaway. He's done it for multiple laps now. So Aaron Law just not having a great first round right now.
He's waiting to get into pit lane for a scheduled stop, and just trying to take his lumps now as he tried to end off with LeBlanc to his inside. He manages to stay there through Renault up to Repsol. He's going to solidly outbrake him. So that's another position lost. He's offline still. Aaron Law, the pain continues. Salazar now able to try and challenge him. Christie thinks he wants a piece of it. They're going to look on either side of him. Neither's going to be able to get through and end up squabbling with each other. Christie able to take 26 over Salazar with that move.
Yeah, in a car with that much damage, it really does bottle up the group, but Aaron Law's going to take his line. He knows it's his line, so he takes it. Now, once again, that leaves Christie and Salazar sticking up between each other. Christie actually moves over a little bit defensive there. Salazar a little bit loose on the exit of that corner. Can't quite get the pace down. This brings Raymond Day back into the play as he tries to get himself lined up for a pass possibly. But look at this. Here comes Salazar once again trying to outbreak in there on the outside.
Wow, I'm kind of impressed with Law's defense here. I thought he would have been overtaken by all of these drivers by now. Certainly not going to be able to keep them back on the front stretch. Wow, great job covering off the inside. Makes contact with Christie. Christie goes off at Europe car. He loses 2 positions, 3 positions, even more as drivers just streak on by. Well, that got a little bit rough, and Law may be getting somewhat desperate, it seems. Let's see if he let Day by. And as Goodway lost a little bit of time to Davies, he's lost about half a second here. I think he's caught up behind traffic.
Yeah, Lewis Goodway's actually doing a pretty good job right now. He is getting caught behind traffic. Gary Schilling is not exactly giving up the line there. So Goodway able to go by, but this is definitely going to close up Davies. Davies is right behind him as they go into the short straight.
Yeah, remember this 0.8 of a second before, and it has not only been chopped in half, but it is now down to 0.3. Michael Davies takes a little bit of a look on his teammate. Doesn't quite work out, but certainly not afraid to make his teammate sweat a few bullets. Up next on the lap traffic, Dylan Humphrey. We were talking about this before the race, something we haven't really had to talk a whole lot about in the PRL series, on the roadside at least. Is lap traffic being a serious issue, especially at a long track like this? And there he goes out of the way. Humphrey's going to let them through, but the damage has been done, and Goodway has got to work very hard to try and stretch that gap again.
Goodway with a little bit of a better exit off of the final corner, but Davies has this long straight to get some draft. That being said, the Audi is one of the more slippery of the GT3 machines. And it looks like we've had a wreck in the back between David Flanagan. I'll keep my eyes on that. David Flanagan's actually upside down.
Lid. And that also involves Humphrey, maybe? I'm not sure. He's just kind of halted off course. No, it did not involve Humphrey. This was with Pete Mabroten. And I think, excuse me, I think that's Mo Broughton, as I've been saying it wrong. It's been a while since we've seen Pete. I don't think we'll be able to replay it. That tipped into the back of him in the chicane, and I think the curbs may have helped tip the car over. What caused that to be as bad as it did. Let's head back to 8th place, Dan Revito. He's got Tremblay and Costello right in front of him. This battle is getting a little bit hot.
Yeah, this battle definitely is getting hot, especially between Costello and Tremblay, who are up ahead of Revito. And this is starting to get very tense between those two drivers. They actually were a little bit side by side as they came through turn 5. And now, as they start to go up towards the shorter chute, they've got Gary Schilling up ahead of them. It's going to be interesting to see where Gary goes, because this is going to determine how this battle plays out. Gary's going to pull over to the side and let these two fight.
Nicely done. Picked a good spot to try and let everybody through. In fact, all 4 cars were able to sneak by. Tremblay gets very close to the rear bumper of Costello, but can't quite do anything with it as they headed into Lakaja. It's a very slow technical portion of this track, especially with that chicane here at the very end. So they're all going to be focusing on the front stretch. Let's see if Jean-Marc can get himself the run he needs to get the slipstream.
And Jean-Marc not quite as good of an exit as Tony Costello. Let's see whether Tony has to lift on the exit of the corner. He does not, but he actually does a little bit of time with the front grip. He actually turned the wheel a little bit further, but Tremblay just not quite enough speed to catch up to Costello. Looks like Revito's going to close the gap just a little bit, but these guys are going to stay pretty much equidistant.
Once again, no good opportunities. They dropped Jorge Flores slightly. Remember, he was the 4th member of this quartet for at least a half a lap there, and now he seems to be struggling as they come to the beginning of this lap. Sending it down into Repsol. They all brake hard. Track starts to drop away and lose elevation, and then they come into Sayat where it really falls downwards. Revito still chasing, hoping that he can get up to the back of Tremblay and Costello. 3 different lines for all 3 cars through that corner.
Yeah, and Revito's definitely trying to take the early apex and trying to get a fast exit, but it's just not working out for him to try and close up to these 2 guys up ahead of them. Whereas Tremblay is definitely sizing up Costello, trying to figure out which line Costello's taking. Oh boy, Tremblay goes a little bit deep through that corner. That's going to open the opportunity for Revito, but I don't think he's close enough. That early entry into 5 ended up costing him the time he would have needed to be on the back of Tremblay on that short straight.
Tantalizingly close. Let's keep the cameras here, but just to give you an update, Davy's not dropped off of Goodway in the battle for the lead, but he's also not attacking. They have continued to pull away from Anthony Pisano. That is up to 2 seconds, so they're really under no threat there. It is a 2-horse race up at the very front as we watch this battle down through the chicane, and it looks like Revito is going to be as close as we've seen coming onto the front stretch. Tremblay knows it. He starts to go a little bit to the inside, not fully. Drifts a little bit more. He's still leaving the door open. What's Revito going to do with it? Does he stick his foot through? No, he's going to stay behind.
Yeah, the risk is just too high to lock up or hit the ABS threshold and just plow straight on like a torpedo into the side of the guy next to you. You really have to be alongside them in order to make that work in the GT3 machines. So Tremblay, knowing that's the case, just stuck his line out, was able to take it quickly, and is going to try and claw his way back up to Costello.
Got a good battle happening between Williams and Mobrotten in 11th position. They're also dealing with traffic as they went by Gary Schilling. That just held up Strykars and Bridges too. So it's 2 pairs of battles here in the mid-pack coming down through Seat up towards the very tricky vert corner. Looks like Mobrotten dropping off of J.R. Williams as they approach that turn. He was much closer at the beginning of this lap.
Much closer at the beginning of this lap, and we're just seeing how hard it is to pass around here. You can see that the front straight is not quite giving the advantage that these guys are quite used to in other series. I can see that J.R. Williams actually has some left rear damage on the back of that machine, so it's possible that Mobrotten actually has gotten into the back of him before. I'll have to take a look at the front of his machine as well, but it's very, very close stuff between J.R. Williams and Mobrotten, and it seems like Mobrotten seems to have a car that's handling better on this level of fuel and tires right now.
Now, we've seen in the past Tin Top series here in the PRL, the de facto strategy is to go as long as possible and then pit. But at a track like this, I have to wonder, I feel like if I was stuck behind someone like this, Adam, I would absolutely be trying to come in early just to shake things up.
I mean, as a driver, I get that, and I get why you think that, but at the same time, as a crew chief, I'm thinking to myself, these guys behind you are doing laps that are a second slower than you, and you're not going to have an opportunity to pass them either. So I'd much rather stay behind a guy that's about 2/10 slower than me than be stuck behind a dude who's a second slower than me when I'm on fresh tires.
Fair point. We'll see if anybody takes the gamble. We've lost a few drivers. Flanagan, Fusi are both out of this race, so is Simkovic. Foes is the last one running of our 35 drivers that are still out on track, 38 starters here today. So despite a large field, despite no free repairs, we have done quite well, I'd say, in terms of attrition.
Now we're going to take a look back at the battle of P6. This is actually Sean Macbeth and Tony Costello. Sean Macbeth and Palacio. These 2 guys are very close together, and they have Tony Costello a little bit ways behind them, but the battle for 4th position very tight now, and they've got Anthony Pisano only a second up the road from them as well.
This has been another one of those pressure cooker fights that has been stuck here as drivers really are finding it incredibly difficult. That's sort of already the known nature of Barcelona, especially F1 has really solidified that reputation, as overtaking is usually hard to come by. In these GT cars, it seems that it's going to be few and far between that you can really get a good chance. I almost think that just putting the pressure on and getting right up to that bumper is the best way to make something happen, get someone to make a mistake. Morales, who's still in 17th, boy, if ever there was a sign that it's hard to try and make overtakes, a driver who qualified on the front row is still only able to make up maybe 5 positions since he had his incident, and now he's stuck behind Kenny Rodriguez.
Yeah, the trouble is that the rear end of that machine, that right rear, is knocked off of toe a little bit, so it's making him loose on right-handers and extremely tight on the left-handers, and that's what's costing him all of his time. He's had to adjust his driving style entirely to try and make it up, and so on top of the fact that it's hard to pass around here, he's also got a car that's making it very difficult to just keep the thing going straight at all.
Halfway through the race, so those who are looking for a pit stop, maybe stopping 1 lap early, 2 laps early, could take a chance here in the next few laps. Instead of going at the very start of the window, it has been open for quite a while. I believe we should see it go till about 10 minutes left. And up at the front, really no incentive to come in quite yet, despite hitting a little bit of traffic here and there. They have a mostly clean racetrack in front of Lewis Goodway and Michael Davies. The two teammates have been continuing to chip away and extend themselves from Anthony Pisano 10th by 10th. It's up to 2.4 currently.
You may think to yourself, like, this looks a little bit like Lewis Hamilton, Valtteri Bottas kind of leader and follower kind of thing going on right now. But Lewis Goodway, you can tell he's pushing very hard to try and stay ahead of Michael Davies. He's been hitting some of those sausage curves very hard, and Michael Davies is not just leaving that comfortable cushion. He's pushing very hard to try and catch up to Goodway. So these two guys, even though they're teammates, don't expect them to give each other any quarter here.
At least it's not more like Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg here at Barcelona. They haven't taken each other out, at least not yet. Definitely keeping the pressure on. Look at how close he is staying. I would have thought with the way that he dropped off to about 0.8 back that it would be tough for him to stay with his teammate here, but certainly he's showing he can keep pace. Now, I don't know how much of that is the slipstream on some of the longer straightaways, but this isn't a place known for giving a lot of that, especially for GT cars.
I mean, Goodway definitely has the stronger one-lap pace, but Davies is able to be a little bit more consistent over the course of a longer run. And so that's keeping him tied up right in behind Davies, giving him right behind Goodway rather, giving him a good opportunity to possibly pass him. I mean, it's all going to come down to pit strategy, I think, as far as how to sort out this battle, because these guys are pushing at 100% already. I would expect that they don't really have much more to give on top of this.
To note, though, that Michael Davies does hold the fastest lap, and there are bonus points up for grabs in this series. Fastest lap gives one, pole gives one, so of course that went to Davies himself. So that's 2 points right there. Goodway, who snuck into the lead in the very first lap, is trying to hold him off to see if he can take the points away in terms of finishing position. Now, they have bonus points for if they get fewer than 3 incidents. That'll be impressive here with how hard these drivers are pushing. Let's come through Renault one more time.
All right, so as we've been on board with Michael Davies, I'm taking a look at Goodway, and I'm starting to see some chinks in the armor. That complex of turns 1 and 2 seems to be his weak point. I think if Davies could get Goodway offline, that might be his best opportunity to try and make a pass. But it's going to require getting a very good final sector through the chicane portion of the track and an exit onto the front straight that's excellent, because that's why Goodway starts to have a mistake. And it looks like Diego Morales is into the pit lane right now, as long as Brian Hotham.
Yeah, I believe this is a scheduled stop for Morales. Just didn't really want to have to deal with that damage too much longer. And it's a decent stop, 9.5 seconds. He is back running once again. We continue to watch our 2 leaders out of Campsa down into Lakaja. They've not pulled away from Pisano much more since we last updated you on that. It's still at 2.4, 2.5. Taking a look at our final podium sitter. He's probably more concerned about those behind him, Palacio and Macbeth, who have been holding on to his tail. At least are making him stay with it, make sure that he can't make any mistakes, because I'm sure they'll be ready to pounce. But again, just like our leaders, really in the spot to try and do anything with it.
No, not really in a spot. I mean, that's just going to be the nature of this track. People are going to have to force things when it comes to trying to make a pass around here, and that means the speed difference between you in the car ahead is going to have to be somewhere around half a second a lap in order to make that kind of a move. So I would expect that people are going to try, maybe you're right, Joe, maybe they're going to try a couple of different pit strategies to try and make things work. But the GT3s, it's so hard to pass on track with them regardless. And here we are at Barcelona just to make things even harder for these drivers. So this is a real test of grit and determination for these drivers as far as trying to make any positions up.
If they decide to come in or not, perhaps Davies, because we have to remember that Davies qualified better, so he should be quicker than Goodway on paper. So
we had a big wreck on the front stretch. This is between Brett Barrett and Barry Cochran. This was for the 18th and 19th positions. That was a gigantic incident.
It looks like Cochran maybe tried. Oh no, he did not try to defend. Here's the replay. He just touched the grass, and unfortunately Barrett, who was in the process of trying to make a pass, it just unfortunately was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Looks like he almost was looking at some settings or something, the way he drifted off to the side there.
It's easy enough to do. He's trying to get as wide as possible to make a good braking attempt into the first corner. Ends up clipping the grass and coming back on. He recovered well, but Cochran was right there on his door, and that ended up causing the contact.
Big damage on that Z4. As our two leaders do not pit this time by, we look at them once again. So they are going to stay out. Morales, by the way, came back out in 22nd. He's trying to take 21st away from Lawson Christie. This is the situation you were talking about, Adam. He's now stuck back with slower cars, and I think he's going to be able to get it done now. There you can see on screen the bright green and black Audi is able to get up into 21st, but boy, that was a costly fight going through multiple corners.
Yeah, and that's my biggest concern, is just getting stuck behind everybody else now. I think Morales might have timed it just right because he's got some decent clear air out ahead of himself and Christie. So this might give him an opportunity to wait out the rest of the pitters and maybe make some jumps now, because we have Kenny Rodriguez into the pits now. He missed his box just a little bit, but he's now back into the pit box. And we're currently seeing about 9 seconds if you're going to do fuel only, up to about 15 for tires, I believe.
Rodriguez, yep, in and out for just fuel, I would assume. Yeah, I think you're right that tires would be kind of pointless even here at a track with a lot of fast corners, long fast corners. Rodriguez back out in 19th. Is this the dominoes starting to fall, where a few drivers willing to pit early are coming in to see what they can do with their situations? We've come back to our leaders out of Lakaja into Box Sabadell.
Yeah, but the reality, Joe, is that pitting early is not going to do any good, because then you just fill up the car with more fuel, which adds more weight to the tires. And if you're not going to take tires in your pit stop, then you don't have the tire advantage. So I'm just not sure whether or not pitting early is actually the best strategy, because I think you're going to want to be out there on the least amount of fuel for the longest amount of time.
You have one taker, Sean Macbeth. Macbeth is in, leaves the group, and he was at the tail of that trio. So I think this is exactly the sort of thinking that I've been talking about, that maybe he's figured he's got not much to lose. Might as well give it a shot. Someone in the background joining him. Who is that?
That's Tony Costello who's joining him. Yeah, and like you said, and the counter to my point would be, if you do feel like you are being held up by the people ahead of you, then you definitely pit. Because at that point, you're going to hope to get yourself some clear air and to make some extra time. But you have to make sure, or hope in this case, that you don't get caught up behind other people in front of you.
The good news is Macbeth is out in a fair amount of clear air. He might catch up to the cars ahead, but I think by the time he does that, they should be pitting themselves. Macbeth might have made a good call. For those wondering, keep an eye on Anthony Pisano in the 55 and Julio Palacio in the 194. Those were the two that he was racing with. These are the two that were in front of all of them. Looks like James LeBlond is also pitted from the mid-pack. He is in for a scheduled stop.
Yes, I'm going to be interested to see when the fuel window closes. Wow, Goodway getting a much better corner there. Michael Davies outbraking himself a little bit. That's going to give Goodway a little bit of breathing room here. We'll see whether or not he takes advantage of it, or he just backs off a little bit to cool down those tires. but it's going to be fascinating to see just when this 50% fuel tank runs out for these GT3s.
They should be getting close.
Ooh, Michael Davies coming in.
All right. Here we go. Split strategies between the top two. And will that make the difference? Anybody else coming in? Not third, fourth. Tremblay from fifth. And his teammate behind him, Dan Revito. Both of them in. Now they were, I think, a little more than a second behind Macbeth before he stopped. So this could be telling here.
Broden's in as well. Davies is going to rejoin the track in about 9th position. I think it's going to be about 8th because he's going to be able to stay ahead of Sammy Bridges. So that'll put him actually into 6th spot. So great opportunity there to get out into some clear air. He's got 5 seconds of clear air out ahead of him. If he is truly faster than Goodway, now is his chance to prove it.
We've still got a little of the lap to go here. Oh, but he's got some crazy lap traffic in front of him. Oh, and he's going to hit him. He's going to make contact with Justin Juneau, who is going to hit the wall. Justin got big damage out of that. Now the question mark is, how much did Goodway get?
Yeah, Goodway just had nowhere to go in that opportunity. Juneau was trying to recover the car and was coming all the way across the track. Goodway just trying to decide where to go and not lose too much time. Ends up getting into the back of him.
Yeah, picked the wrong side. Always difficult. It's easy to look back at it and say you should have done this, but he second-guessed himself, it seemed.
Joe, the gap back to Davies right now is listed as 26.2 seconds. Pit delta time for Davies was 27.3. If Goodway does a time like that, it's going to be close.
He had to have lost at least a little time from that checkup. I'm not seeing much damage on the front of the car. Maybe he got away with it. Of course, the stewards probably won't be very happy with that. As we watch Davies now come through the final chicane. Goodway is in his stall. A little bit of damage there we saw.
8.4, that's about 0.4 of a second faster than Davies' stop. Pisano and Palacio are both in the pits as well. Goodway's going to come out ahead. I think he's going to retain the lead. It's going to be closer to the braking down to 1, but I don't think Davies is going to have the speed to go around him.
Wow. And it is exactly back to where it was. I thought for sure that Goodway would have lost enough time from that incident. Bridges in third, but he has yet to pit. Macbeth has, Macbeth has jumped Pisano and Palacio. So that worked out for the 252.
Yeah, and that's because Pisano actually had a really horrible in-lap, got loose in a couple of different places under the pressure of Palacio. And so that gives Sean Macbeth a great opportunity to possibly have a podium here. He's up by about 1.5 seconds over Pisano and Palacio right now.
Fixture in his witch's brew to get him up onto the podium, it looks like. Just waiting for Sammy Bridges to confirm when he comes in and hand over that third spot to the 252. 8 minutes left to go on the clock. We almost have all of our drivers having pitted. Duchesne, one of the last ones, now in. Bridges getting fantastic fuel mileage, I have to say. Going a lap farther than every other driver in the field.
Yeah, Bridges doing a great job right now just to maintain that consistency. Trouble is with his pit stop, that's going to put him out somewhere around 15th or 16th position, possibly 14th if he gets lucky.
Still a net game because he's started in 20th if he comes out around 15th. Taking a look at 12th place, Mo Broughton chasing Margula. This is Ferrari versus Audi.
Yeah, Margula just hit this last lap, so he's out on fresh fuel, I guess, not fresh tires. So Mo Broughton is definitely going to do his best job to try and get up there and fight Margula for that position. Looks like Sammy Bridges just hit, so he's currently released Sean Macbeth into that third spot. Michael Davies has closed the gap in the lead down to 0.4 of a second, but Mo Broughton right here in the best opportunity he's had since starting this lap to try and get past Piotr, but this is going to be hard. He's not quite got the speed.
Just seems like it is way too tough. There's not enough of a slipstream, but mistakes like that will open it up. Margula goes deep into Elf. Mo Broughton is now right underneath the rear spoiler. He doesn't have much place to go coming through Renault, and he swings out wide trying to carry the momentum. And we had a problem with Julio Palacio in front of them. Coming through Seat. He is off the course. This was a self-spin through what is admittedly a difficult hairpin. 194 falls to 8th after already losing to 3rd place. But yeah, there you see it right there.
Yeah, he just carried the trail braking just a fraction of a second too long into that corner. Ends up losing the back end, and that sends him around. He's recovered, but he's down all the way down to 8th position. Unfortunate for him.
Come back to our leaders. Davies still making sure that Goodway has to earn this one. And to tell you the pace that these two have been running, Macbeth is 6.5 seconds behind. Remember, for much of this race, it was 2.5 seconds, but they have kept the intense pace up and has dropped the field. 5 minutes to go now. Can Goodway manage to come in and make a splash by taking the first win of the new series?
One of the things I love about watching the PRL series is at the front of the field, you always get these really excellent drivers who are able to maximize everything about the vehicle and run it right to the ragged edge, as we saw there from Goodway coming after GT3. Davies taking a look on the inside, but these two drivers are running the absolute maximum when it comes to trying to get things work.
And Palacio's in pit lane. Now, ooh, I don't know if he actually hit anything because he didn't when his car spun. Interesting. Wonder if he... Oh, no, he didn't short fuel because he's been in there for a long time now. This is very bizarre for the 194 and sad to see him fall not only off the podium, but looks like he's not really going to get a decent point finish for his troubles.
Yeah, potential for a podium opportunity there, and it just slips away from him with that spin. I think he might be in for... yeah, he went in for tires, so either that or he might have gotten a penalty. 36.4 seconds.
Yeah, you know what? He might have had too many incident points. Remember, it only takes 11 to give you a drive-through.
Oh, yeah, that's not that many at all.
I think he just maybe was a little too greedy, and a spin would do it because that is worth 2 incident points. So we head over to 11th as well. This is Margula and Bridges still, as Bridges is right underneath him. He's certainly in a hurry because he knows that Mo Broughton is not too far up the road, and that is another position that he could potentially snag if he's got the pace here.
Yeah, Mo Broughton was able to claw that position away from Margula, and now Bridges trying to do the same thing. Looks like Margula's just struggling a little bit with turn in. Seems to be causing him a little bit of issues in that Audi. It's possible that thing's starting to get the wicked loose that we see on a lot of the Audis and the GT3s when they're running on the edge setups. So if that's the case, then Bridges, if he can handle that better, he's got a good opportunity. But he is gaining here, but I don't think he's quite close enough to make a move into 1.
Got it down by quite a bit. Man, he carries so much more speed down to the apex. There's just, unfortunately, nowhere for the car to go by the time they get there. He's going to have to make some sort of amazing dive to execute a pass. Or, as we keep saying, hope for that long-term mistake for something to give him a shot. We're going to have 2 laps to go for our leaders. So time is running out. Davies is actually the farthest back we've seen in a bit from our leader, Goodway. And I wonder if traffic has had something to do with that, because I see they just went by Raymond Day, and they're going to have one more coming up. Sean Foes is next in line.
Yeah, I can report that Palacio definitely did have a penalty. He's currently in the pits yet again. So Lewis Goodway and Michael Davies currently battling it out for that first position. Only to 2 to go this time around. This is going to be tense stuff as they do catch up to the lap traffic of Sean Foes up ahead of them. Where Sean goes, with how close they've been, the traffic might be the determining factor as to who wins this race.
Sean Foes, Sean goes. So he's going to hold station for now. And they're coming into one of the more twisty parts of this track. It's not where they want to catch him, but great heads up by Sean. Number 10 is a regular in this series. He holds off the line. He's not fighting anybody and allows the top two through.
So, I mean, Davies is just going to have to try and pressure a mistake out of Goodway at this point, but Goodway's been lapping so consistently over the course of this race. I mean, Goodway could just look back at Davies and say, yeah, I see you there, I don't care. All he has to do is just hit his marks like he has been the entire race, and he's home free with these last couple of laps.
He's going to get the white flag next time by. This will be a phenomenal drive. And the irony of all this here, Adam, is how many times have we said you can't win the race in the first corner? And that's just about what Lewis Goodway did.
I mean, it depends on what track you're running and where you are qualified on the grid. I mean, Goodway, like with this circuit, absolutely you could win it in the first corner, but you have to be in the top two, because otherwise you'd have an opportunity to make the pass in the first corner. So Goodway and Davies, I mean, you definitely have to win the race over the rest of the duration of the laps, but at the same time, you can definitely lose the race in the first corner.
Pretty true. We're actually down to, I believe, 26 cars left on the lead lap of our 38 starters. Some of them, of course, still not running. We're down to 32 runners left. We've lost Juneau and Barrett as well. White flag is out. One more to go for the first round of the PRL GT3 Sprint Series. Goodway did not qualify on the pole, but he made good on a start and a mistake into the first corner. And he now leads and has led since then here at Barcelona. They're 7.5 seconds, almost 8 seconds now ahead of Sean McBeth. So it is all up to these two unless they come together and wreck.
Yeah, and you can see that Davies is definitely pushing himself right now to try and get up to Goodway and possibly incite a mistake. But Goodway is 7/10, like you said, ahead. This is the furthest ahead we've seen him in quite a while, so I don't see Goodway making a mistake here. Davies is going to have to really work hard to pressure him.
At the only really good passing spot, and it seems the pressure is getting to Davies because he goes wide out of vert. And unless it's a horrible exit here for Goodway, there's nothing much that he can do because Lakaja is the last best chance to try and get an overtake done. Nothing doing there, just way too far back. Lewis Goodway just has to keep it clean. He's got a little bit of traffic. I don't think he's even going to reach them before the checkered flag. It's still in Humphrey and Danny Duchesne in front of him. Out through Europe car. Into the chicane. Just got to watch out for those curbs. He gives them a wide berth. He knows he doesn't need to push it here. Out of New Holland, Lewis Goodway is going to win the first round ever of the PRL GT3 Sprint Series here at Barcelona.
Michael Davies with a solid second, but the driver I want to talk about is Sean McBeth, who's coming home for third position. A win on the strategy. He gets the pit strategy done and pulls out a podium here. Sean McBeth coming home third.
Vito's going to hold off Costello for P6. Close finish between those two. Margula, remember we were watching himself in Bridges. They're still right nose to tail. Here you can see that is Margula and the green and black machine. As Bridges trails him all the way to the line, and there is just nothing in it.
And Kyle Strikers looks like he's going to hold off Kenny Rodriguez here for the 14th position. Looks like Diego Morales not having an opportunity to pass Angelo Velos for the 16th spot either, so those positions are as well.
We have one position change from a mistake from Lawson Christie that allowed Palacio to get one more spot, but that's only going to put him up to 24th minute gains for him. I think that is mostly it for our drivers on the lead lap. And it looks like Christie is even out of fuel, so he's going to have to limp home. We'll come back after a short break. We'll have the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. And on screen, you can see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Welcome back to Barcelona. Round one of the PRL GT3 Sprint Series had something of a surprise winner. Lewis Goodway, who started on the second row from third, had himself a good start off the green and then sent it up the inside, coming through the first corner when Davies made a mistake. And that chance into the lead was all he needed to take the victory. Davies did wind up in second and was right on his bumper all race long. Just couldn't find enough pace and a good enough opportunity to retake that lead. Sean McBeth starting from seventh, jumping a couple drivers in the pit stops all the way up to the podium. He's got to feel good about that one, ahead of Anthony Pisano, who started fourth and finished fourth. Jean-Marc Tremblay with a P5 today, and Danny Revito, another one that we didn't really watch his climb, but went from 12th to 6th. Costello was 7th, and Jorge Flores finishing 8th. J.R. Williams, how about this? 19th to 9th, 10 positions up for J.R., so improved on his qualifying. And Peter Mobrotten finishes in 10th.
Piotr Magrula is going to finish in 11th position after being able to hold off Sammy Bridges for that final 11th position. Then we have David Menino rounding out your 13th position with Kyle Strikers in 14th. Kenny Rodriguez is going to finish in 15th today ahead of Angelo Velos. Angelo Velos was able to hold off Diego Morales for that 16th position. Diego coming home in 17th after spinning on the first lap and going in the back of the field with some pretty significant damage to the right rear. Arnaud Jeunesse going to come home in 18th position with Christopher Rhines and James LeBlanc rounding out your top 20.
Last few drivers on the lead lap: Levi Goffany in 21st, Ariel Salazar in 22nd. You got Brian Hotham in 23rd, and then Julio Palacio. Despite all of his problems, he still finished on the lead lap, but he was all the way down in 24th. Danny Duchesne was the last driver on the lead lap in 25th. We mentioned Lawson Christie ran out of fuel, so didn't finish that last lap. First one lap down in 26th. Raymond Day, 27th, and Aaron Law in 28th. Then it's David Stevenson in 29th and Gary Schilling in 30th. Dylan Humphrey, last car to actually finish, other than Sean Foes. Everyone else you see here was a DNF today. I believe we're waiting for some of our podium to meet us. I see that we could have Sean McBeth here ready in a second. I think he's just debriefing for a moment. Obviously a very good run for him. As we mentioned, Sean coming up from the fourth row all the way to get into the podium here today. And it looks like we've got him ready now. So we've pulled Sean McBeth in. Sean, congratulations. For a track that we saw today showed very, very tough to try and make overtakes. It seems like you really didn't let that phase you. 7th to 3rd. Are you proud?
Yeah, definitely. Qualifying didn't quite go my way. Every time I'd be on my fastest lap, I'd either get an off track or make a slight mistake and do a half spin or something. So kind of just settled with my time for 7th. And I was very happy to work my way up through the field for sure.
Been a bit since we've seen you here on the channel, but you have always been one of the faster drivers in the tin tops here in the PRL. What drew you in to return with the GT3 cars?
Kind of just my personal schedule. I'm really busy these days, so it's hard for me to find a time to do a lot of official stuff. And I tend to like the league racing style too, the one and gun kind of thing. So I figured I'd give it a shot and hop back in it for the season.
And speaking of difficulty passing, not only do we start with Barcelona, but we've got Brands Hatch for the next round. That's another one where I imagine qualifying is going to be important. Is that something that you think, because you had troubles today, you'll be focusing on that one lap pace, that consistency, so that you can get that time in?
Oh, definitely. There's like really only 1 or 2 spots to pass at Brands Hatch, so qualifying is going to be so key. I'm going to put in a lot of work this week to get that consistency, and hopefully it'll pay off.
Well, we look forward to hearing from you on that. Congratulations on a podium. Anybody you'd like to thank before you head out?
I'd like to just thank the team. It's an awesome group of guys, really fun to run with. Lots of laughs, lots of chatting, lots of setup talk going back and forth between each other. So it's just a good team to be a part of. So I want to thank them. And thank you guys, too, for broadcasting this. I think it's really cool to broadcast the sim racing stuff to some people. So thank you guys too.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for the kind words. That was Sean Macbeth, who finished third today. Adam has caught up with our second place finisher, Michael Davies, who might be ruining that first corner mistake.
Yeah, Michael, looked like that was the defining factor in this race. Even with the early pit stop, we weren't able to get ahead of Lewis. How was that battle with Lewis today?
It's pretty good, to be honest. There's just no overtaking around this track, so it's just sit and follow basically. I was trying to manage the fuel a bit to try and make the stop shorter, but Lewis is really good on fuel, so I just had to sit there and wait.
So sitting behind Lewis for that long, where do you think you were better than him on track? I mean, I know that it's hard to pass here, but there had to be some places where you saw that if he made a mistake, you'd have a good opportunity.
To be honest, everywhere. I've been faster on pace in practice. It's all come down to the turn one mistake. The tyres was not up to temperature. If it was a full pace lap, I think it would have been different.
Absolutely, and there was a little bit of lap traffic coming into play throughout that race. Did that affect the result at all, or do you think it still would have ended the way it did?
It would have stayed where it was. Lewis had a quicker stop time as well, which doesn't make sense saying I was saving fuel behind him. But yeah, it is what it is.
And next week we head over to Brands Hatch, which is similarly difficult to pass. Is that a track that you like better or worse than this one here?
I think I've probably turned about 50 laps in total since owning Brands Hatch. So it's not a very good track for me, ideally. So we'll have a look at it this week, why it's in the official series, and see where we go from there.
All right, Mike. It was great to talk to you, and fantastic finishing second today. We hope to see you next week, and we hope to see you up on the top of the podium soon.
All right, thanks for having me.
That was Mike Davies, our second place finisher, and it looks like Sean has caught up with our winner, Lewis Goodway.
Sean has, and I have as well. Lewis joins us in the booth, and Lewis, it seems like you got a good run off the line, and then, well, the world just opened up before you into that first corner. Tell us what was going through your mind when that happened.
Oh, it was a bit crazy. I got a bit scared, but I was obviously happy.
Now, it seemed like Michael thought he had better pace with you if he had the clear air. Did you have that in your mind during the race? You felt like you had to be perfect to hold him back, or did you feel pretty confident that you were good to hold on to that lead?
I knew Mike was faster than me. In practice, he's been faster pretty much every lap, constantly about 2 to 3 tenths. So I'm lucky that this track is very difficult to pass on. So I knew if I just hit my marks, like it would take a good lap from him to pass me.
It certainly seemed to be the case. Now, I'm not sure. I don't have the team stuff up. Are you two teammates officially, or is this sister teams that you're racing together here?
We are officially teammates, yes.
So does that affect how you race each other at all? Is that something where you think, he wasn't willing to make any risky moves on you?
I said to him, if he got a run on me, I wouldn't make it too difficult. Only knowing the pace difference. But obviously, if we got a championship to fight for, you never know.
Yeah, yeah, everything goes out the window then. Even still, Lewis, fantastic drive. Awesome job on that start and staying consistent throughout the race. Anybody you want to thank for the victory today?
I'd like to thank Peter, my team boss, and obviously SimMSA, and also Mike for helping with the setup.
Great stuff. That was Lewis Goodway in the number 74 Audi, who took the victory here at Barcelona, just staying calm up in that car to manage to pull that one home. So we're going to close out here today with our own thank yous. Of course, a big thanks go to the PRL series for bringing us back for another season of coverage. And also remind you that if you are looking to advertise, make sure and check out the link in the description below, where you have the opportunity to get over 1 million monthly impressions here on the Global Sim Racing channel for your company. So definitely give that a look if you want to get some eyeballs on your company. Thanks to our sponsors as well, NinjaTrader.com, for helping out the series. And of course, The Butt Kicker, which can be found at thebuttkicker.com, and Simulation Motorsports Affinity, which is at SIMMSA.net. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast, listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. And thanks to the team today, Adam, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check out our social media. Our Twitter is at GSR Channel, Facebook, Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram, GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to support us, check out our merchandise store at gsrc.storeenvy.com. Link is in the description below. The next race is going to be Brands Hatch. That'll be Monday, September 28th at 9 p.m. Eastern, 1 week from today. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. In just a few minutes' time, we have the Porsche Owners Club coming up. That'll be at Laguna Seca, and so we hope to see you there as well, as that is a very entertaining series. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.